Good day to you this day. I am beginning a watch through of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I mean a mega watch through where I'm watching the TV shows, the movies, all of it, roping it together to get the full cohesive story. And this is the start of my reactions. I'm going to be reacting to three Marvel properties. So we get started. Good day to you this day. And so, the movie that naturally I am beginning with as I work through these films is the movie that started it all. And I should say, started it all. I'm going in a chronological order. So, it's not really the movie that started it all because Iron Man started it all. But we're going to the movie that is the start of it historically or chronologically, and that is Captain America First Avenger. Now, most of these movies in whatever I have watched numerous times, so none of these are new or fresh in my like I've never seen them before. But my reaction to Captain America: First Avenger remains the same. It's a great introduction to this character. Steve Rogers is extremely likable right off the bat. Chris Evans nailed the character. He had the voice, he has the presence of Captain America. I like the way they start with the backstory, where he's a scrawny kid who just feels like he has to do something. You have the Nazis who are doing these horrible things and trying to overtake Europe, and he just wants to. I like the question that gets asked to him by Professor, what is it, Eskin or whatever. He asked the question. He was asked the question, do you want to kill Nazis? And he says, no, I don't like the idea of killing anyone. I just don't like bullies. And I like that. It's kind of a classic mindset of the those World War II vets that they wanted to knock down the bullies that were the Nazis, and really the movie very much is a bit of a love letter to or a homage to that generation. The relationship between Chris Evans and or I should say Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter is remains one of the strongest relationships in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Uh, and when it ends, I mean, obviously there's spoilers in these, but this movie came out what 2012 or whatever. I think it's almost 10 years ago. Wow. No, 2011 it came out. 2011. I forgot. It came out the summer before Avengers. But anyways, uh, at the end of it, when he sacrifices himself, and they have that last conversation about that dance, and she's crying. You feel it because him and Chris Evans and Haley Atwell do such a wonderful job, such wonderful chemistry, that you could feel that connection between them. And it felt like that old fashioned romance that you did get from the older generation. I liked the whole touring scene where he's touring to raise funds for Um, for the war, I liked the scene where he's in the theater and he's watching on the screen and they're talking about what's going on in the war and all that. I love those little details that puts you into that era to remind you of the world it was in. Um, it was a different place, and you could see what his admiration and respect for the soldiers, for the military, for the cause. Uh, it's like I said, it's all such a really good done movie. I mean, it's got to some degree, it feels like a history piece, and to some degree, it is. I mean, obviously, but of course, it's a comic book movie, and it's kind. I love the way that they bring a balance to those things. The weakness in this movie is kind of the last half of the plot, and that is specifically when the Red Skull comes in. And, I think Hugo Weaving was a good Red Skull. I don't think this is a criticism of him. I think this is just a writing problem. Um, I've often said that the biggest problem with the first Avenger is that the villain's plot feels a bit like a Saturday morning cartoon villain scheme. The Tesseract is, good for it was good for the Avengers movie. I don't think it worked well in First Avenger because Captain America First Avenger is rooted in World War II. And I think that when you brought in the Tesseract and the spacey stuff thrown in there, I think you lose that feel. You lost that effect. And so it's a like I said, I mean the movie all overall is good. I liked the use of I love the use of Tommy Lee Jones. I thought he played great as the military guy, and he was kind of hardball, and he's hyper realist, but you could see that he wanted the best. He was not he wasn't a bad guy. I mean, there's a lot to like in this movie. There's a lot of good things. It's just got that part that's just weakened, and it kind of weak. I think the way it ends kind of weakens the memory of the rest of the film. So, like on a scale of, if I were talking a 5 stars scale, I would probably give this a 3 stars. So it's good, but it definitely could have been better. All right, next one. Next Marvel property we're looking at is Agent Carter. Now there were 2 seasons of Agent Carter. So this is supposed to take place not long after the end of World War II. And hold on, before I get to this, one of the things I'm going to go back here to First Avenger. One thing I kind of liked at the very end of First Avenger is that at the end of the movie you see victory in Europe and you see the planes flying over the capital, the celebration and everything. And there is kind of a lingering sorrow that Steve Rogers, Captain America, who made the sacrifice he did, never got to experience that. The fruits of his sacrifice was never seen. And what carries in that is the reality of all the soldiers. All those who died in that war, whether it be on the beaches of Normandy or wherever, they fought to knock down those bullies. They fought against tyranny. And they died in combat to never see the fruits of their sacrifice. It's kind of a humbling thought, and I don't know that came to my mind at the end of First Avenger this time when I watched it, and it actually made me realize I kind of wish. I mean, when it was being released in theaters, I think it was helpful, but I kind of wish it wasn't in there anymore. Is the credits scene, the scene at the end where he meets Nick Fury. I kind of wish we did not see him wake up. I wish we did not have the whole part where they carved it out of the ice and all that. I wish you didn't have that. Because as I watched through this chronologically, imagine watching it chronologically for the first time. And what if you didn't know Captain America was going to come out of the ice? Imagine the excitement when you got to Avengers and there he is, Captain America. And especially if you were to go through the mega rewatch that I'm doing, um, where you include the TV shows and some of the extra stuff, man, does that become even cooler. Like, oh, what? I thought he was gone. So, but anyways, and it might even capture some of the emotion of the films. But anyways, so Agent Carter, season 1 and 2. This is a show that only got 2 seasons, which is kind of disappointing because the second season ends with a cliffhanger. And I guess the internet's kind of answered what happened at the end of that second season and what they were planning for season 3. And I don't know what to feel about Agent Carter, honestly. I like Haley Atwell. I like Agent Carter as a character. I liked Jarvis, who was the butler for Howard Stark. I like Sousa. I like the characters, really. And the story at times is really good. At times it's lacking. I don't know. I have a really mixed opinions on this. So I don't think it was a bad show. And I think it was actually more good than bad. And season 1, but it annoyed me a little bit how much do they grind the axe of the. And I suppose this is probably kind of a problem that's come from because I'm now in 2021 and I've seen other movies that got along this plot. But the thing that drives me nuts is how many superhero films, especially when where the lead superhero character is a female or the lead character is female. Too many of them fall back on this plot line or this trope of the common trope of woe is me, I'm a woman. Or woe is me, I'm a black man. They do that in black African American movies. And I wish they would stop doing this. You could do it here and there, but they just really rode that theme in Agent Carter. And they really ride that theme in some other movies and TV shows. And it gets to be annoying. It's like, do you not have another story? Do you not have another plot to tell? Okay, grind. You want to know? Why don't you just make a good character and people won't worry? But anyways, and Agent Carter is a good character. That's why I wish they would have just grind on that theme like they tend to do in film, and it's annoying. And Marvel's been really bad about this, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna bring up this issue quite a bit more when I get farther through this watch through, to some of the more recent releases. But like I said, I like the attire, I like the setting, I prefer the season that they did in New York over the season they did in LA. But it's not that big of a deal. I kind of was bugged by the fact that season 2 just totally dropped out. Agent Carter's roommate. I kind of liked that she had that roommate. Kind of had a connection. I liked that theme in season 1 where her roommate thinks that she works at the telephone company. And I like the whole thing of her trying to navigate being a quote normal person while being a agent in these really extreme situations. And I liked the grounded nature of the story in season 1. Now season 2 got a bit more spacey, more sci-fi, which fits more into Agents of Shield, which will be a while before I get to those episodes. Um, so I really do think I liked the first season a bit more, but I think the second season was good, and I liked what was the I liked the villains, specifically the character of Whitney Frost. I thought was a strong character. I love. There's actually one episode in season two that I really liked where they balanced. When they contrasted the character of Whitney Frost with Agent Carter, the development upgrowing, where you see Agent Carter had support. She had the support of her brother and others, and well, specifically her brother. Whereas Whitney Frost had a horrible upbringing, awful mother, um, who was with this man who was definitely not good. There's kind of worry that he might have done something to her. They don't straight up say it, but it's kind of suggested that he might have done something. And or he was at least very much a creeper. And I liked that. I thought that was a strong episode. And it gave good context to both Agent Carter and Whitney Frost. I liked kind of the challenges that they're dealing with the corrupt government. This kind of loosely connects in with what ends up happening in Agents of Shield, and what ended up happening with um, Captain America: Winter Soldier, which we'll get to later. So all in all, I think this was a two solid seasons of a series, and I think it probably should have gotten at least some more time. Its ratings just plummeted, and I think part of that was bad advertising, bad timing of the year, things like that. So there we go. So the next one I've been on. So one more movie. So the next one I've made it to. So this is showing you how extensive my watch through is I'm on X-Men First Class. Now, if you're familiar with it, you realize that X-Men First Class is not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was part of the Fox universe. But there is a lot of discussion. I mean, ever since with the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, and they definitely played with the multiverse, the question has become, what should I watch in preparation? And especially when, actually, there's kind of a possible toying with characters in WandaVision. And so, with those realities, I can't help but explore, including in the X-Men movies, the Spider-Man movies, and all of them. And so X-Men First Class is, rewatching it. I actually rewatched it today, and the thing is that it has not aged well. There are things in that movie that just bug me more than I think when I watched it the first time. One part is there's a very strong sexualization of the girls in this movie, and to the point it just bugs me, because you had this whole scene where Myra McTaggart is, she's in her bra and panties, and she goes into this room full of girls in their bra and panties. Emma Frost, the White Queen, she's always scantily dressed, and speaking of her, horribly written, horrible performance. I think it's January Jones. I think that was the name of the actress, if I remember correctly. I mean, the thing is that Emma Frost is one of the better characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She has not had a lot of representation on film, but she is a great character. And man, man, did they ruin her with this paper thin character. There's a reason she didn't show up again in Days of Future Past. It was just such a weakly written character. Actually, let's just look at the poster here. Okay. So you look at the poster there. You have Mystique. Which Jennifer Lawrence does a good job with her character of Mystique. Um, Michael Fassbender just knocks it out of the park as Magneto, and no disrespect to Ian McKellen, but I kind of think that he might be the best Magneto. Although Ian McKellen has done a good job. Um, James McAvoy plays Professor Xavier, a young Professor Xavier, and he did an acceptable job, but he's in the shadow of Patrick Stewart, who I don't think anybody will ever be able to outdo him in that role. The Havoc character, he was so-so. Angel, and then there's the red Nightcrawler-esque guy. Kevin Bacon is big of a star. He is, he's a big name actor. I never, every time I watch this, I never feel like that is Sebastian Shaw. He doesn't look like him. He doesn't sound like him. He doesn't feel like him. And Kevin Bacon, he was a good villain in the movie, I guess, but he wasn't a good Sebastian Shaw. And honestly, that's one of the ongoing problems of everything that the Fox did with most of the X-Men characters. There's so many of them where they were good at what they did, but they weren't good for the character. And honestly, I don't think... Jennifer Lawrence, even as Mystique, she did good with the role that she had, but she wasn't a good Mystique. And this actually holds true for Rebecca Romijn as well in the original movies. Mystique in the original, in the Mystique that I know of, that I'm familiar with, she's dangerous, she's cunning, she's extremely intelligent, and I don't know if I've ever got that from the Mystiques that we've gotten in the films. And again, Emma Frost. Man, I that's somebody that this is one of the problems as I'm watching through this. I kind of wonder who would they rope into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And as I look at this poster, the only ones in that poster, the only one in that poster that I would consider roping into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Michael Fassbender's Magneto. And don't get me wrong, the movie still is good. I love the story with the backdrop of the Cuban Missile Crisis. I like kind of that ongoing theme of mutant and proud, even though I know underlying it is definitely a LGBT topic. That's definitely underlying in it. But I also can kind of see it just as that is its primary. That is definitely underlying. Especially, it definitely becomes obvious where there's this one point where Beast is spoken to and he says, "Hey, Beast, I had no idea." And he says, "Well, you didn't ask, so I didn't tell." Which this goes back to the 90s, the don't ask, don't tell policy about gays in the military. And so it's playing into that. But it's still, I think in general, it works with the angst of teenagers, period. Feeling like they don't belong amongst the people that they're with. And the great experience when you find out that you're not that alone. And I like that there's this scene where they're partying, they're showing off the abilities that they had, and they're being proud of who they are instead of hiding who they are. And sometimes kids feel like they have to do that. They have to hide some parts, aspects of their life because they're afraid that they'll be shunned. I don't like how in this movie they unceremoniously kill certain characters. I don't like how they unceremoniously killed Darwin so quickly. There's no emotion attached to it. I mean, he showed up, he was in the cab, and you saw him show off his abilities, and that's it, and then he's killed. And I feel like he got robbed. I feel like there should have been more to that character, especially given the fact that he was the one black character who, and I say this because the X-Men were created as an allegory for the civil rights movement. And the one black character you have, you unceremoniously kill him so early on in the film, and then you're surrounded by a bunch of, and you had nothing but a bunch of white people. Why? That just bugged me. Another issue I have, and then the other one that they did this to, was the character, the man in the black suit, so the guy that's kind of helping them out. I guess he didn't actually get a name, so that even gives it more disrespect. And I didn't realize that they didn't give the guy a name. It was played by Oliver Platt, but he's helping them. He's the guy that believes him from almost the get-go. And he just gets unceremoniously killed and dropped out of the sky. And I didn't really like that, because this guy was like one of the few humans that was, on their side and protecting them and being honorable to them. And he just dropped out of the sky like it's nothing. You kind of feel like the guy should have gotten more for his death, given what commitment he had given. And so there are things like that just bug me. The score is incredible. The relationship between Magneto or Eric and Charles I like that. It's still not the best. It's still not all the way there, but it's closer than it should be. One thing I will say is the X-Men movies do not do a great job of truly telling how strong the relationship is between Magneto and Xavier. And I kind of think in order to do this in the movies properly, I feel like you have to root the rise of the X-Men in the 70s during Vietnam, because their friendships are developed in war. Like, they were working together during a war or whatever, and that's where they develop respect for each other and they realize their abilities, and then they showing them building this strong friendship, and eventually they separate, not because they hate each other. In fact, they still are friends. They still have incredible admiration for one another. Their separation is because of what they believe. And the thing is, one thing I will give credit to this is that you can't, with Magneto, with Eric Landshear, you can't help but believe he's right. And that, I think, is what makes him such a good character. The whole thing is and I kind of like this, the best versions of Magneto is where he'll do anything for Xavier. I still love one of the moments, the X-Men the animated series. I think it was like the last episode of the series. Magneto was on the eve of possibly having one of his biggest conquests, but Xavier is dying, and the only person that could save him is Magneto. And Magneto has this opportunity, and he basically says he has the choice before him is to accomplish everything that he set out to do, or save possibly his only friend. And that was, I mean, that's the kind of, and he chooses to save Xavier. I mean, that's how strong their relationship is. That's why it just totally, like in X-Men 3, which I'm going to get to, totally drives me nuts that when Xavier dies in that movie, that Magneto isn't shaken to the core. I think it would have affected him so much more than it did because their friendship is what it is, and I think he would have tried to save Xavier. All right. The other thing is, um, but anyways, the other thing is this other part of the Xavier Magneto relationship that I think is the best is when you get it. And so this is the whole thing of the relationship: is Magneto doesn't really want to believe what he believes, and I think they did kind of capture this in one of the conversations in First Class where um, Xavier says, "You believe all of them are like Shaw," which I thought is kind of interesting because the irony is that he thinks is that Shaw is actually a mutant. But and then but anyways, he said Magneto says is that but you think all of them are like Myra, and this kind of I like that they could confront their division. But the thing I like, the way I've always understood Magneto is that he does he wants Xavier to be right and him to be wrong. But for the sake of safety and security, he can't take the risk. And he goes with his mission that is survival, basically. That's what he's going for. And that's what, even, you kind of got it in the difference between um, Magneto and Sebastian Shaw, is that Shaw was seeking power and glory. That was his goal. Kingship, rulership. Magneto was about survival. And that's what separated them. That's why Shaw was just as pure, was truly what you'd call a villain. Magneto, he's the reluctant villain. As he said, and in the core of it, I like that they brought it in, where he says that line. He says, I have been at the mercy of those following rules, following orders. Never again. And that is his famous phrase, never again. And it's a phrase of the Holocaust victims. And kind of does make you the question is like with Magneto, as as the years pass, where do we root him in now in history? Can we separate him from the Holocaust? Maybe, but I don't know what event in history has that degree of evil that would create a person like Magneto. So, like I said, the movie is not bad. It's still a good story. It's still got a lot going for it, but there's a lot of issues in it throughout. And so, again, going to that 5 stars, that scale of 5 stars, I would probably give it 3.5. And so there you go. So far, those are my reviews so far at this point. My reactions of the movies as I go through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The next movie I am going to watch is either X-Men Origins Wolverine or X-Men Days of Future Past. Both are supposed to take place in the same year, in 1973. And so one is definitely better than the other. So, but I hope this is a little bit of joy as I go through these. And feel free to keep up. Have a blessed New Year's. In Jesus' name, amen.